Good morning, Thursday, April 9th. I want to start out by thanking those of you that watch these devotions on a regular basis. We're going through the book of Revelation verse by verse. I know that some of you want to get into the meat of it right away, but we want to look at the whole book. And remember what it says, you'll be blessed just by reading this book and studying it. So we're going to look at verse 11 now this morning. Verse 11, we talked about 10 yesterday, but we read that. On the Lord's day, John said, I was in the Spirit, and I heard behind me a loud voice like a trumpet, which said, write on a scroll what you see and send it to the 7 churches. And then he goes on to name them. Now, remember what I said. His body was there on the island of Patmos there, but his spirit was being taken in different places. Remember, we said he was taken up to heaven, he was taken to the desert, he was taken up to a high mountain. Now, here's what I want you to realize. John is seeing things happening that 2,000 years ago, he's seeing things happening today, and he's seeing them 2,000 years ago. He's seeing things that haven't even happened yet that we haven't seen. Now, the first thing that grabs me is, isn't it amazing that we have a God that 2,000 years ago knew exactly what was going to happen today? He knew 2,000 years ago this virus was going to hit the world. He knows what the end of the world is going to look like. It's like he's not bound by time or space. What an incredible God we serve. But imagine John 2,000 years ago seeing even what we're seeing today. Just think of the things that he's seeing. He's seeing jet airplanes. He's seeing helicopters. He calls them iron birds and iron horses with fire coming out of their mouth. He didn't know how to describe it. Jesus didn't tell him, okay, now John, this is a Apache helicopter, and that's a missile coming out of it. He didn't explain all that to me. He just gave him the vision and then told him to write what he's seen. He said, write what you see. So he's trying to describe what he's seeing 2,000 years ago. It'd be like us trying to describe something that we haven't seen yet that's 1,000 years from now. We wouldn't know how to put it into words. So the thing now with his 7 churches is, he was writing, they said, write this to the 7 churches that were there at that time. But most scholars believe that those 7 churches represent the church today and the church in the future and the church over time. That it isn't necessarily just those 7 churches. Those 7 churches represent the church of Christ. Now, what is the church of Christ? What does that mean, the church? Well, we've studied this many times, but let me just read to you here. It says in Colossians 1:24, Paul says, now I rejoice in what was suffered for you, and I fill up my flesh, which is still lacking in regard to Christ's affliction, for the sake of his body, which is the church. Jesus' body, which is the church. Wow. Then in 1 Corinthians 12:27 says, now you are the body of Christ, and each one of you is a part of it. We are the body of Christ. So John is writing to the churches, which is the churches at that time, which is really writing to us because we make up the church. We make up the church, and the church represents Jesus, the body of Christ. So when someone says, well, I don't need the church, it's like saying I don't need Jesus. Why? Because the church is Jesus. That's who the church is. So everyone at our church, Collision, or the church that you are a part of, you make up that church. Jesus is no longer here in body, he's only here in spirit. So the church, we represent the body, the physical body of Jesus. We represent that. So He's writing to the churches, but he's writing to us who make up the church. I mean, think of it. Now, we just rented a school, Palm School, but many of you watching this, you belong to a church that has a building, and you call that your church. Well, God took that away from you. He took that away from you. You no longer can physically go to that building. Does that mean that that church doesn't exist? Yeah, of course it does. It exists with you because you make up that church. That church is called the body of Christ, but you are that church, so you are the body of Christ. So let me ask you, how much do you love your church? Meaning, how much do you love the people in your church? When people say, oh, I love my church, I love Collision. Well, what does that mean? I love Collision. I love the name. I love the Palm School where we meet at. No, it means that I love the people that belong to Collision. If you have your own church, I see Rob Verhoeven watching again. He has a church, Rosewood. He loves that church. I know he does, but he doesn't love the building. He doesn't love where that building is. He loves the church. He loves the people that make up that, because they are the church. So in 1 John, it tells us this in 1 John 3:17. Let me read it to you. I lost my place here, so hold on. I always have little tags, and my little tag has disappeared. So I'm going to read here from 1 John chapter 3, verse 17. It says, if anyone has material possessions or something that people need and sees their brother or sister in need but has no pity in them, how can the love of God be in them? So when you see someone in your church that has a need, whether it be a financial need or a physical need, an emotional need, and you have the ability to reach that need, to take care of that need, but you don't do it, how can the love of God be in you? See, the church takes care of one another. Liz, one of our church leaders, Liz Polk, we had some people in our church that were having problems with knowing whether they could apply for the stimulus package, whether they were able to get it, how they could file for unemployment if they could, and it was questions that I didn't have all the answers to. I couldn't meet their needs. I pity on them, but I couldn't reach their needs. So I told the leaders of the church, and then Liz Polk immediately reached out to them to explain to them what the information that they were looking for. That's what this is talking about. That's what it's talking about. That you meet the needs of those that are in your church. Not the building, the people that are in the church. That's like meeting the needs of Jesus, because we represent Jesus. So when Liz did that to the people in the church, it was just like doing it for Jesus. Same thing. Now, I've been doing that. I've been contacting people on a regular basis, daily, weekly. And I know what some of you are going to say, well, yeah, Jim, that's your job. You're the pastor. That's what you're supposed to do. And whoa, now, wait a minute. Different things. First of all, I may be the pastor, but I'm doing this for free, just like you are. But regardless of that, I have a job to do. And let me explain what my job is, okay? This is in Ephesians 4:11, or the job of your pastor at your church. He or she. It was Jesus who gave some to be apostles, some to be prophets, some to be evangelists, some to be pastors and teachers. Why? To prepare God's people for works and service, so that the whole body may be built up. You hear that? My job isn't to meet all the needs. My job is to prepare you people in our church, to meet the needs of the people. And God has given you all different gifts to be able to do that. Some of you, He's given the gift of financially helping, and you're doing a great job of that. Some of you have gift of knowledge, or you have answers for people. Some of you have the gift of mercy. Again, I'm going to use Liz Polk, that's calling this woman that's in the hospital, not for the coronavirus, but because she had a stroke, and she calls her daily, just to give her comfort. That's what they're trying. Now imagine, those of you that are watching here from Collision now, or for your, imagine if everyone in the church, if every member of the church did that, was doing what Liz Polk is doing. It's like, wow, how strong would our church be? How strong would your church be if everybody in your church, imagine, Rob, you have quite a few members in your church. Imagine if every single one of them was reaching out. That's why in the early church, the first Acts said there wasn't a need among them, because everybody was doing their part. So the question is, what are you doing? What are you doing besides taking care of your own family? Okay, I know you're taking care of your own family, but unbelievers are doing that too. So what are you doing to help Jesus, his body, the church, made up of all the members of the church? You get it? That's what we're called to do. Let's do it. See you tomorrow.